All right. Now let's work on the functionality of login and register. So first let's close all the tabs. We'll open just login and register pages. So components, pages, register page and login page. All right. So for register page, we will inject our iAuth API. We have already implemented Auth API. We have added this Rapid interface. We can directly access everything. Here, what we'll do, we'll simply create a method private async task. Okay. Here we'll say login async. Right. First, we'll check, or we don't need to check. In this edit form, we have a method on valid submit. It is going to be triggered if only when the data annotation validations are passing. So on valid submit, we are going to call our login async method, right? We will also inject our app state so that we can call our show loader and hide loader method, which we just created previously. Let's go to the very end. Here in login async, we'll say first app state dot show loader. Then we'll say await auth API dot login async. Okay. Then we have this login DTU. We need to provide login DTU, which we, sorry, not login, register async. We need to provide our register DTU, which we have as this underscore model. Now this returns task of API result. We'll have this task of API result. That means we'll have var API result. Then here we'll simply check if API result dot is success. If this is not success, then we should have got some API result dot error. So here what we'll do, we'll say await MAUI interop dot alert async. And here we'll provide API result dot message or dot error, which is our error message, and then title alert is fine, or we can maybe say error. And then we'll simply return from here. We will not do anything further. If that's not the case, we will show a toast. We'll say await MAUI interop dot toast async. We'll say registered successfully, user registered successfully, something like this. Then we are going to navigate back to the login page. We need to inject our navigation manager as well. Inject navigation manager, and using this navigation manager, we'll simply say navigation manager dot navigate to slash login, and we will simply remove this register page from the history. That means if we press back button on login page, we should not come to this register page. There is no point. So in this navigate to, we have this optional parameter we can use with replace true. That means just replace the history stack. Alright, and after that we'll simply say app state dot hide loader. Now we are good. Right now we are not handling any error. That error could be API related error basically. If the API is not there, or in further also we will check if token is expired and all. So for this, what I am going to do, I'll do it after some time. We'll have this entire logic in some centralized place, in some common place, and we are going to make all the Rapid API client calls using that common method, and we will handle our errors related to API in that place. Okay, that will do. Right now, let's just should be register async, no, not login async. Right click, rename, it should be register async. All right. Now similarly, let's copy this thing and copy these inject statements. Go to the login page, paste inject, and then add the method here. We'll say login async. We'll say login async method, and we'll call this login async on this edit form on valid submit like this, and we are good. And after doing this thing, we don't need to add a toast message here. Instead, we'll say save user info in some state, some app state, and then we are going to redirect user to home page. Okay, replace true. Here also we'll do replace true because we don't want user to come back to this page. Save everything, and looks like we are good. There is one problem. This return, this app state dot show loader will always be shown. So let's do this. Let's wrap this thing. The try catch block, or let's say try finally. Catch will handle in that centralized place and common place. Here we'll have this thing, and inside this finally we'll say app state dot hide loader here, and we'll remove this thing from here. Same thing we'll do in this register async. We are going to wrap this thing in a try finally, and we are going to have this app state dot hide loader in finally block. Save it, save everything. Let's try to run it. Okay, app is here. Let's add some item, go to cart, continue. We are on login page. If I do login, we have this validation. Let's go to register first, or let's go back to login only. We'll add some username password. Okay, this also we need to handle. You see, when we are clicking in it, the background goes away. So we need to have the same background. Login, we can see activity indicator. Then we can see the error user does not exist, which is fine. This error coming from our API. This call is working. Let's go to register. Here, let's try to create a new user. Before that, let's set that background color. If you go to our app state, that's CSS app.css basically, where we have our form control focus. We have this app entry, right? So we'll do this. Let's do this app entry focus. Here also we are going to have the same background. Save it. Let's try to restart. Alright, so we are here. Now if we focus, then it is not getting cleared. So now we are good. Let's try to create an account. Temp. Just temp at gmail.com. Contact number. This is optional. We can skip this. Password 123456. Let's register. We have activity indicator. User registered successfully, and we are back to login page. Now we can try to log in with this user. We'll temp at gmail.com. Password. Let's first incorrect password. Login. We say incorrect password. And if we correct the password, then login. We are logged in and we are on the home page now. So that means our logic is working and everything is working from login and registration. These two things are working now. Cool. Now what we need to do after login, we need to store the user's logged in information. Okay. So this thing we are going to store in preferences, shared preferences. So this thing we are going to get from the, this is a device native feature. So we are going to use MAUI interrupt for this. Inside this MAUI interrupt, we are going to have methods. We'll say public static void. We'll say set, or let's say save to storage. You can say this, save to storage. Here we'll say string key and string value, or maybe we can simply make it generic. We'll say t value, and this value is going to be of type value. Then we will simply serialize this. So we'll say var serialized equals, here we'll say JSON serializer dot serialize value. Then we'll say preferences dot default dot set key and serialize. Then we are going to have one more. We'll say public static, not void. This time we'll say t value get from storage t value. This is going to be of type t value. This is some dynamic type. Here we are going to get string key, and we are going to have a default value as well. If that does not exist, then we'll use this default value. Okay, so here we will get var value equals, we'll say JSON serializer, or before this we can simply say var value equals preferences dot default dot get of type t value. Here we'll say string key, which we have as key, and default value. Or maybe we can simply check if we actually have this value. For that we'll simply say preferences dot default dot contains key. If we have this key, then we are going to use this. We are not going to get t value directly because we are storing as serialized string format only. Have serialized value only. So we cannot directly pass this default value here. If we don't have this key, we will return this default value. Outside of this, we'll return default value. Now inside this thing, we will get var, we'll say simply null as a default value, and we'll say get nullable string. Here we can say serialized value. So this is what we stored. Now we'll check what we have. If string dot is null or white space, we have this serialized value. If this is the case, or maybe we'll do the negation if this is not the case. Now we know we have valid serialized value. We'll simply say value, or we can simply directly return JSON serializer dot deserialize. We are going to serialize with t value is serialized value. If that's not the case, it will simply come out and return this default value. So these methods are also ready. Now it is saying it is nullable, which will not be nullable because we already checked serialized value. Serialized. All right. Save to storage and get from storage. We have these things. Let's have one more. Public static void. We'll say remove from storage. Just we'll have a key. Here we can say preference.default.remove key. Now we can have this inside this MAUI interrupt, or we can have this in a separate class. We'll call storage service, something like that. That is also an option. You can do that also. Okay, it's up to you how you are implementing it. Now we are here in login page. We logged in, and we can get the current logged in user var logged in user from this API result dot data. This is of type logged in user only. This is logged in user. Now we just need to store this logged in user in storage. We'll say MAUI interop dot save to storage string key. It could be anything, maybe user data, user info. It's up to you how you are naming it. And then value. So value is going to be logged in. Alright. Now instead of doing this here, we will create a global auth service. When we say global, that means global within this application, this MAUI application. So we have services. Here only I'm going to create one more class file. I'll call it auth service. Okay. Public class auth service. Here, what we are going to do, we are going to create a method. Public void, let's say login. Here we are going to get logged in user as a parameter. And this thing, what we are doing here, this MAUI interop save to storage, this we are going to have here. Now inside this we can simply have a private const string user data key. We can have it here and we can use this user data key here. Alright, so with login we'll do this. Then for log out, we'll simply say MAUI interop save to storage. Instead of this, we'll say MAUI interop remove from storage and we'll say user data like this. Alright. Then this auth service, it should have the current logged in users information directly. Here, what we'll do, we'll simply have a type logged in user. Here we can simply say user. Okay. And we can have a helper property as well. So we'll say public pool is logged in. This we'll say private set, and when we are logging in, that time we'll set user to logged in user and we'll say is logged into true. Similarly, we'll come here in this logout. After removing it from local storage or maybe using this, we'll set user to null and we'll set is logged into false. That means here we need to have it as nullable. Save it and now we are good. We have login, we have logout, and we have this user information here. Now, this auth service, there must be only one instance of this auth service throughout our application. That means we need to register it at singleton so that we can log in, set login from anywhere and we can access the current logged in users information and some other part of the application. Let's go to MAUI program. Here we'll simply say add singleton auth service. Save it and we are good. Now, if you remember in configure refit, we had this refit setting, we had this authorization header value getter where we need a token. Now we know after login, we are setting token here. We are setting this user and this user has the information of the token. Okay. Now we can get this token from here. Let's quickly set this up. We have iService provider here. We'll say var auth service equals, we'll say sp dot get required service of type auth service. Now we have the instance of that auth service. Here we can get token or we can directly set this here. Set this. So we'll say auth service dot is logged in. If we are logged in, we'll say auth service dot token, auth service dot user dot token. If that's not the case, we will simply set maybe string dot empty or just empty string. And this could be null, but we checked, so it will not be null here. Now we are sure. This is how we are setting the token for other requests. Let's do this like this single line. This is more readable now. All right. So we have this information now. We have set up our auth service. We just need to inject auth service on our login page. Let's quickly inject it. Say inject auth service. We should have called it auth state, not auth service. And here we'll say auth service dot login. We'll say logged in user, and we should be good. Let's rename this auth service. Let's rename this to auth state. Same thing, this auth service, let's go to this class. Here we are going to rename it to auth state. Save everything. Now we should be good. All right. Service happened. It should be auth state dot login. Auth state dot login. All right. Now we have our logged in users information in place. Now let's quickly check if we can get this on profile page. Just inject this. Inject auth state, and we will simply print this name here. Have anything, welcome, and then auth state dot user question mark dot name. Okay, save it. Now we are going to run it. So now we should see the username here. On first we should not see, but after that we should be able to see. We are here in the app. Let's go to profile page. Here we see welcome and nothing else. That means the name is not there, that we know. Add, go to cart, continue. We are on login page. Let's try temp at gmail.com, password, login. Let's go to profile page now. We can see welcome temp, which is the username. Very unique name. But we can see this. So that means that thing is working. Now let's do this. Let's quickly restart the app. Okay, we are here. If we go to profile, we see welcome and blank. Again, why? We already log in and we set the state in storage as well, the preferences. Preference should have the value. It has the value, but right now what is happening? Our auth state. We are just creating instance of this when the app is running, and we are not getting value from the storage anywhere. What we should have? We should have some initialization logic. That is, when this auth state comes online, we should have the information in this user. For this, what we can do? We can simply have this call in its constructor. Okay, constructor will simply say MAUI interop dot get from storage. We'll have string key, which is our user data key, and then t value, default value. It could be new, or let's say just null only. The type, we are going to have nullable logged in user here, like this. For user equals like this, we'll do this thing, logged in user. Okay, now it is going to return us. We'll check if logged in user is not equals null. That means we have the logged in users information. Then we'll simply say user equals this logged in user, and is logged in equals true. Now we have this thing. Whenever we are going to access auth state for the first time, it will initialize it. Then we'll have the values intact. Save it. Let's restart the app. Now if we go to the profile page, we should see the name. Alright, our app is loading. If we go to profile page, we can see welcome temp. Right? That means we can see the name now. Alright. Now we can simply come here and we can handle that case. If we are here, we are clicking on continue. It should know that if user is logged in or not. If user is not logged in, then we'll simply go back to the login page if we continuing from here. Alright. With this, I guess we are done with our login, registration, saving the auth state, getting the auth state on app startup and all. So we are done with the login and storing the user information and all this stuff.